I am of mixed race. However, depending on the social situation, I am, as Louis Althusser would say, hailed as black or white, with others treating me differently depending on how I am perceived. I began playing violin at 4 years old while living in Baltimore City, Maryland. Violin was seen as a stereotypically white activity in my primarily African American community. Despite that notion, however, almost every single violin group I participated in was entirely black. As Martinique psychiatrist Frantz Fanon states, as long as the black man is among his own, he will have no occasion to experience his being through others. This rang true in my experience. In my all-black violin group, no one stood out in relation to one another, and there wasn't an ingrained sense of inferiority that one might gain in an ensemble where they were the minority. However, as I got older, I began to play in various orchestras. As I slowly made my way through the classical music trajectory, it became harder and harder to find anyone who looked like me. Suddenly, instead of being judged solely for the quality of my music, my identity as a violinist was tied to my skin color. People often assumed I was there for diversity reasons, or I was met with a patronizing tone of voice when I told people I played the violin, as they expect a certain level of incompetence when you're a minority. According to a study on racial, ethnic, and gender diversity in orchestras done by the League of American Orchestras, African Americans make up 1.8% of orchestras nationwide, despite making up over 13% of the population. The New York Times recently wrote a retrospective on Joseph Boulogne. Boulogne was a black classical composer from the 18th century, described by John Adams as the most accomplished man in Europe in writing, shooting, fencing, dancing, and music. He composed and performed orchestral sonatas throughout France, gaining notoriety from his technically proficient playing style and innovative composition techniques. However, he is often referred to as the Black Mozart on classical music websites and in promotional material for an upcoming biopic about him. He is not granted his own title, but is rather named after a white man. For some, it is inconceivable that a black man has the ability to create classical music, and that fact must be cloaked behind comparing him to his white counterparts. If we see through the lens of sociologist Stuart Hall's notion of race being a floating signifier, my race changes depending on the way in which people view me. What is signified by my black skin can range anywhere from a neutral sign to one where I am seen as an outsider, as someone who does not belong. One particular experience that resonated with me was when I was in my high school's orchestra. I attended a large school with a robust orchestral program that had over 200 students, spread amongst 4 progressively selective ensembles. During my junior year, we were attending the county-wide orchestra competition, waiting in line for our group, the top orchestra at my school, to be called up. As an all-black ensemble passed by, a classmate of mine leaned over and snickered to a friend. The more black an orchestra is, the worse it is. The students surrounding him laughed and agreed with his sentiments. This statement hurt and cemented my place in the group as the other. I was hailed to be black, to be inferior, even though I didn't feel that way. I earned my place in the group just as everyone else had. Fanon's concept of historicity, the stories and myths surrounding race, created a falsehood dubbed the fact of blackness. This fact of blackness is the assumption that a black person should act in a particular way because of their skin tone, and in my case, that I shouldn't be playing the violin. The fact of blackness argues that I should be doing R&B, not classical. Race essentialism leads itself to dangerous and harmful conclusions that need to be torn down brick by brick.